Hey, how you doing? Welcome back. We are now on part 4 of our journey back to 2005 and the Ashes series between Australia and England. As it stands now, as of part 3, each side has 1 victory, 1 loss, and 1 draw. And I'm no mathematician, but I think that's about as close as it can get. I want to make one clarification before we move on with the video, and that is in the last few videos of this series, I've mentioned a few times that the English side looks very young. I said that more than once. I said those guys look young, and someone wrote in, commented, and said Freddie Flintoff was 27 at this point in time, and I thought, that's not so young. And I looked at Michael Vaughan, the captain, and he was 30 at this point in time in 2005. So what I've come to realize is that the English side wasn't necessarily young, but I'm just old. And everybody looks young to me now. I suppose that's the way it works. That's what happens. So 30 and 27, definitely not as young as I would have guessed. I thought Freddie Flintoff looked like 19. But that's what happens after enough years go by. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at part 4, test match 4 of the 2005 Ashes.
With 10 days to go before the teams met again, Australia had time to regroup and, more importantly, Glenn McGrath had time to recover. But there was no doubt in England's mind they had outplayed the Australians in Manchester, and the key thing was that they knew they could do so again.
Yeah. I think they lost 9 in a row of this series coming into this. Is that possible? If so, I can see how being, close at this point is kind of a psychological win for England, because they must have been pretty down losing many in a row in the recent past.
This was still level. The teams went to Nottingham with all to play for, and Michael Vaughan expected every man to do his duty.
Trent Bridge. The crowds came early to see Ricky Ponting win the toss and elect to bat.
Last game he elected to bowl. One quick thing, what I've noticed about cricket, but it seems to be in all the stadiums or cricket grounds I've seen, the players don't enter from the locker room or a tunnel, They enter from like a house, a clubhouse. It's interesting. I don't really know what the tradition is or the story behind it, but it looks like all these cricket grounds, the big ones, have like a clubhouse almost right on the field, and they come out of the clubhouse. It's kind of, it's just more of the tradition. At least that's how it appears, kind of just a traditional thing.
Matter how quick the outfield is when you hit them like that.
Wow.
There's placement and power.
They didn't have a particularly good first day, England, because Druskovic and Strauss sort of put on a good opening partnership. Then they lost Bell, and then Vaughan and Peterson sort of rebuilt it a bit. But then Vaughan got out near the end of the day.
Well, Ponting has pulled it off.
4 wickets down, not so good.
The second morning started well for Kevin Peterson, who hit a string of boundaries. But his luck didn't last.
The next morning was crucial, and Peterson was out early, so suddenly you thought, oh dear, 250 for 5. The Australians have had a result here, and they could easily bowl England out for 300. But this England side is made of sterner stuff, and the engine room really came to the fore there. That's Flintoff and Jones.
No ball called.
that goes into the boundary for four. It's a lovely shot.
Fred, by now, is the threat. He's the one Australia had to get past. But the one thing he needed to do to complete the set, if you like, was to play the patient innings, to help England realise a good total to put Australia under pressure.
Flintoff has got onto one and also gone on to 50.
Shot boy.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Right up the
that's
middle.
just a firm push, isn't it? He's such a big man with that power, but that's batting.
He just said something I've been curious about. He said he's a big man with that power. He does look tall. I wonder how tall Freddie Flintoff is.
It's not hitting, that's batting.
Funny thing about that innings is that it wasn't as spectacular as some of his earlier innings, and it wasn't in some ways as memorable because there weren't the scary moments that punctuated particularly his first knock at Edgbaston. He was in control, he played straight, he played orthodox. Every time the ball went to the boundary, you just thought, well, that's the right shot to that ball. There's nothing particularly special about that. It's just an Australian quick bowler, and he should be dispatched to the boundary.
This was Flintoff's first Test 100 against Australia and was clear evidence that Freddie had come of age.
27.
Oh, it's in the air and a slight mishit, but down the ground, mishits from Flintoff tend to go further than mishits from most.
And there it is. Watched it close, turned it to the onside easily, and that's his 5th Test match century, first against the Aussies.
Test of an all-rounder is to be able to bat at 6
Wow.
and get hundreds when they really mean something. Now, this was the point where that happened. You know, his bowling had been fantastic all series, his batting had been great, such as it was, but this was a quality class innings from a
Shane
quality
Warne?
player.
When England were all out at tea on the second day, they'd reached an imposing total of 477. If the Australians found England's batting lineup formidable, they now had to face a relentless bowling attack. Matthew Hoggard took 3 quick wickets for starters.
Oh, that's out. That's out.
Yes. Is there inside?
Oh,
edge?
nice.
And the finger goes up. More wonderful swing bowling from Matthew Hoggard.
England have had a 5-prong attack, 4 pace bowlers, constant.
See, this is another thing. I've been thinking the whole series, I've seen former England captain, and I've thought, how can a 23-year-old guy be a former England captain? That's incredible. But I'm old.
They're going at the Australian batsmen. There's been very little respite from them.
Not least from swing bowler Simon Jones, who was waging his own psychological war on the Australians.
What he wanted to show more than anything else was that he wasn't a one-trick pony. He wanted to show that he could bowl conventional swing. And of course, if you do that, having been the king of reverse, the Australian batsmen are looking for something that's not there. They're looking for the ball to go the other way, and it goes the right way, and that unsettled them.
Jones looks to me incredibly fit. He looks dangerous, quite scary, really. He looks like a man who's done 300 press-ups and sit-ups a day, as if he's just come out of prison.
You could see this was Jones's
And I mean
moment.
that in a good
He was
way.
absolutely there. The crowd were willing him on. For the first time, maybe he felt he was going to make a contribution to win a test match.
Is this out? Yes! What a good catch.
5 wickets.
5 wickets for Jones for just 44 runs. The Australians all out
Wow.
and still 259 behind. A humiliation. They were forced to follow on.
The psychological significance of making Australia follow on, not Zimbabwe or Bangladesh or somebody else, but Australia, the world champion team who've devoured everyone in their path for all this time, they are now mortal. They are now someone to whom you ask the question, have another bat, because you haven't got enough. You haven't got enough. We've bowled you out.
Michael Vaughan is saying it's going to be hard work out there, boys. Are you up for...
Okay, I don't know what a follow-on is, but from what he said, I would assume it's something like, England says, we're up by so many, why don't you just keep batting, You know, I don't know how it works. I don't know the details of it, but that's what it sounded like. I don't really know the advantages or disadvantages, or if it's a choice, or if it's mandatory in certain situations. I don't know.
Bowlers, they say yes, and it's the first time Australia have been asked to follow on since they played Pakistan at Karachi back in 1988.
That's big stuff. That's England saying, we're better than you, actually. You have another bat. Do better this time. See how you go.
The follow-on is it's an interesting psychological thing. It's not necessarily always the smartest thing to do, but it is like kind of whipping a towel off someone as they're coming out of the showers and pointing at them and going, ha ha.
The follow-on was a risk. It made a draw far less likely.
It was a gamble in some respect, but I asked the bowlers whether they were prepared to go out and try and bowl Australia out again. They're the ones that matter, not myself, and they all stuck their hand up and said, we're ready.
We were hoping they'd enforce the follow-on, but we thought that was our best way of winning the game. We thought if we get 150 to 175 ahead, then we thought there were a real chance. And I remember Simon Kadich coming to me in the morning and said, how many do you need? And I said, oh, I reckon around 170, 180, I reckon we'll win. He said, okay.
To win, Warne would have to outthink Australia. Tactics and strategy would become as important as bat and ball. Placing the fielders would play a crucial role in the battle to come.
Throughout the series, Vaughan has put fielders in unusual but effective positions. For example, for Langer, who's an opening batsman, Vaughan puts a man on the deep point boundary. Now, conventionally, that would be seen as a sign of weakness. You don't set a man on the boundary for your rough, tough, macho opening bowlers. But Vaughan knows that that shot is a very good shot.
You play your best shot, and you're not getting four for it, you're only getting one. It can piss you off, and we try to just try and create that image where Australia like to bully the oppositions. They like to get on top from ball one. They want to hit boundaries. They want to put the bowlers straight away under pressure. So I was trying to ask them the question, you know, can you put our bowlers under pressure by not scoring the big fours, so we block that off, and let's see what other options they had of scoring. And, you know, it created probably a few opportunities in the field because it maybe frustrated them. I think that was one of the key factors. We managed to frustrate them and make them play shots that maybe they wouldn't play in another game.
So if I get that, he positioned fielders in places that would stop a ball from going for a 4 and instead get a 1, and he put fielders in those places and took them away from places that may lead to an out, a wicket, because maybe he thought taking away the extra 3 from making it only a 1 would be more helpful over the long run than playing for outs and playing for outs and allowing them to get 4s and 4s and 4s, maybe? I don't know.
Means is, firstly, they only get 1 instead of 4. Secondly, it means they lose the strike. That batsman loses the strike and ends up down the other end. And it really, I mean, it's been a very clever thing because the Australian batsmen, as a result, haven't really found a plan B. They've had this plan A, which is, yes, I'll come in and smack some 4s here and smack some 4s there. Oh, I've only got 1 for that, and I've lost the strike. I'm down the other end now. Damn.
Like Vaughan, Ponting was under huge pressure to deliver, both as a batsman and as a captain.
No, that's a really good one, made by the use of the feet.
Ponting looked increasingly confident. The partnership he built with Damien Martin had the makings of a match saver.
Martin and Ponting are putting on a stand. They're building runs. Ponting's out there batting for his life, for his reputation, under tremendous pressure. Martin drops the ball into the offside and calls Ponting from the non-striker's end for a run.
Well, it was a dodgy single, period. Martin's hit the ball too close to the bloke at cover. They committed the cardinal sin of cricket, getting run out.
Run out? What do you mean run out?
He hit it too close to the bloke. Now, I wondered about that. Was that the guy who batted that ball took off, and that means the guy at the other end also had to take off because the batter was coming towards him. He had to go. And I suppose they were saying Australia should have just stayed there, not tried to run after the hit, I think.
Australian captain in that situation, run out, and then he looks at the bloke who's run him out, and he doesn't recognise him. He thinks, "What? That's not Peterson. Who's that? some bloke on the field because Jones is off having a comfort break. By that stage, I'm sure Ponting didn't know how serious Jones's injury was, but he didn't bother to find out, and he's made himself look a complete arse, quite frankly. And then he goes off and the camera stays on him and he gets to the steps at the pavilion and he looks up at the England balcony and Duncan Fletcher, the coach, is there, and he's going, "You cheating." And everyone looking at it thinking, what's happened? They nicked his wallet?
Simon Jones was legitimately injured, so he's allowed to have a substitute fielder. I don't think that was the issue. The issue was every time they bowled a spell and going off and having a shower and having 10, 15 minutes breather, and just most of the time having 1, 2, 3 substitute fielders on at any one time. And that wasn't really in the spirit of the game.
Ponting had got it wrong. Jones was genuinely injured. But in truth, England had been a little creative with the substitute rule. England were now showing an almost Australian style of ruthlessness. They were playing to win. Australia inched their way back into the game by tea on the 4th day. They were ahead by 129, but still well short of Shane Warne's target of 170. Victory was within England's reach.
Did he hit the ball into the stumps?
England need 129 to win.
They started off fairly comfortably and Trescothick was aggressive and they scored good runs. But you just knew that Warne was going to produce something. Warne's just said, "Give me the ball, Ricky. You know, go and find somewhere to field and I'll sort it out. Okay, I'm in charge now. You know, you might wave your hands around a bit, but I'll change the fielder there and I'll do that and just leave it to me because this is serious. And if I don't do it, no one's going to do it."
Gone! I reckon that's about pat it is. The first one for Australia and the first ball from Shane Warne.
If I was the captain of Australia and I had Shane Warne in the team, I'd be making as much use of him as possible. He's got a fantastic cricket brain. He's one of the greatest cricketers that's played the game. He's got a lot to offer. He must have a lot to offer. And I'm sure that Ricky Ponting uses his knowledge extensively.
There's this dichotomy within the team. Ponting's almost a puppet of a captain. And he must feel like that because he knows that Warne has the experience, the gravitas, the heroism, the respect, you know, and the spirit and the leadership quality, you know, and the fearlessness of what Australia may well have needed.
Some saw this moment as an example of the dominant Warne undermining the uncertain Ponting.
I've had my opportunity of captaining Australia and I enjoyed those few one days that I did, and I think in our side we've got a few senior players that help Ricky out and give him some helpful advice, and if he wants to take it, it's up to him.
I was in a wedding reception. Snuck a moment in the drinks before the meal to text my brother to say, "Have we won yet?" The message came back, 70 for 4, Warne bowling brilliantly.
You know, I just want to say, I don't think I've mentioned this in any of my videos, or maybe not for a long time, but they're talking about the captain making decisions and this and that about the captain. You know, one thing about like these sports, cricket, rugby, Australian rules football, the ones I've been doing, looking into a lot, I just respect how the captain is the one sort of in charge, or, you know, they're saying Shane Warne was sort of the, you know, actually the captain, but whatever, it's a player on the field. And same thing in rugby, you know, it's just so different than the U.S. when, you know, the U.S., you know, football, basketball, even baseball, compared to these sports, they seem like they're just overly coached. I mean, the coaches, in football, the coach calls every play. If in baseball, the coach positions people, you know, it's not the captain, it's not someone on the field. I just think it's interesting, and I respect how the players are the ones in charge, and the captain actually makes decisions, because in the main American sports, the captain is sort of like, it's like an honorary thing. He doesn't really make any decisions because the coach does.
That's great bowling. Fantastic cricketer this guy is.
And it was as if a cold hand had seized a grip of my entrails. I could see vividly in my mind's eye the ball going sideways all over the place, Warne appealing for everything that hit any part of the batsman's anatomy, an England batsman going to and fro from the pavilion with monotonous regularity. It was a terrible, terrible moment.
Despite Warne's heroics, England crept towards the 129 they needed to win. But they'd lost all their top batsmen. Then the 7th wicket went down.
This is going to be out. Kasparovich will drop this. This is all over. That's it. Another down. The pressure has got to Gareth Jones.
And the bowlers Giles and Hoggard were in.
Oh, wow.
Was it going to be an England victory?
This is close too.
Was there even a chance that Australia could win? In a series like this, nothing could be taken for granted.
2 hours of Treadbridge was some of the most agonising most nail-biting, scary stuff. And that includes some pretty gory horror films and, nasty thrillers. It was edgy, really, really edgy stuff.
And that's it. Those are the winning runs for England.
The winning runs were hit by Giles, tucked modestly through the leg side.
Giles.
And who should he be facing but his nemesis, Warne?
England had gone 2-1 up in the series. They'd only need a draw at the Oval to bring home the Ashes.
Last of the heroes for England in one of the more tense situations I've ever come across in watching cricket.
Another match with a tense ending.
Is the misery of losing outweighed by the pleasure of winning? And I think for England it is. Because England is like a championship league or a second division soccer team in a strange sort of way. I support Norwich City in soccer, say. And I really don't mind when we lose because I expect us to. But when we win, I am so happy. Infinitely happier than any Arsenal supporter or Chelsea supporter ever could be.
Even though they've been dominating Australia throughout every game since Lord's, they've not quite been able to. It's almost as though perhaps they can't quite believe they're in this position. And credit to Australia, they never give in as well. They've got this residual kind of competitive instinct that comes out, and they fight to the wire.
There's no doubt that England have been the best side. I mean, they've played generally the better cricket.
It shows an amazing amount of inner sort of fight and self-belief and skill to have got to where they've got to at the end of the 4th test and to be leading the series. And, it's been an immense performance that's put cricket back on the map in this country and made people in this country really believe that we have got winning sportsmen again.
Around about 10 million people watched that game in the UK alone, and suddenly, from a crushing defeat at Lord's, England had turned the sum around and they led 2-1. As for the Aussies, they were on the ropes. Imagine this, to retain the Ashes, they had to win here at the Oval.
So if it ends up 2-2, they retain the Ashes in Australia. Okay. They said toward the end of the game, Giles came up big for England. If I remember correctly, he's the one who was sort of, the press was really down on after the first one. And he had a column he wrote, and it said, I may not be Shane Warne, but I'm the best we have, or something like that. So that's certainly, that storyline played out nicely for him. I don't know what happens in the next one, but in this one, he seemed to sort of make a big contribution. I have one question that I've been thinking about this entire time, and I didn't want to interrupt even more, so I'm going to ask it now. When a batter hits a ball and it's on the ground and it's rolling fast and it's gotten through, both the batter on each end, they start running. If they're in the middle of running and the ball makes it and hits the boundary, can they just stop and, it's like an automatic 4? Like once it hits the boundary, it's a kind of a, in basketball it'd be kind of called a dead ball. Or do the batters have to go through with the up, back, and the other one up, back? Or does it just, if once it hits the boundary, is it sort of like, you got a 4, stop running, go back to where you were? I'm just curious about that, because I've been thinking about that. And if anybody knows the answer, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows the answer who's watching this, so please let me know. Part 5 is coming up soon, and we'll see how that goes. If you like the video so far, maybe you could subscribe. That would be very much appreciated. Like and comment. And I will see you next time for part 5. Thanks.